Hello student, next topic is scalar renaming. So scalar renaming is also based on the same principle which we discussed during scalar expansion. And in scalar expansion, we discussed that if some dependence is due to reuse of value, then such dependence needs to be preserved. And if dependence is due to the reuse of memory location, then such dependencies can be removed by using some of the techniques. So there we have seen scalar expansion, where scalar variables are replaced by vector variable, and which results in removing the extra dependencies which are because of reuse of memory location. Okay, and those dependencies are not due to reuse of value. So here we'll use the same principle, and we'll try to make some programs which are non-vectorizable to vectorizable. Okay, so to understand this scalar renaming, just see this example very carefully. Here we have a do loop which executes 100 number of times, and inside this loop we have 4 instructions: S1, S2, S3 and S4. So carefully observe this program. The first statement is T is equal to A of I plus B of I. Then second statement is C of I is equal to T plus T. Here T is a scalar variable. Then S of 3 is T is equal to B of I minus B of I. And fourth statement is A of I plus 1 is equal to T multiplied by T. Okay. Now in this program, you just try to draw the dependence diagram. So how many dependencies are there? You can clearly see that you have one true dependence because of this. Because scalar variable T is defined in S1 and in S2 it is used. That's why you have loop independent true dependence from S1 to S2. So if I have to draw the dependence diagram, then first I have to represent these statements by nodes. So since I am having 4 statements inside the loop, I will be having 4 nodes in dependence graph. Now this dependence due to T, this is from S1 to S2. Okay, and this dependence is true dependence, and it is also loop independent true dependence because source and sink both are in the same iteration. Okay, now next dependence is, since here T is used in S2 and S3 it is defined, so due to this you have a dependence from S2 to S3, and this dependence is of which type? This is of NT dependence, and since source and sink are in same iteration, so this is loop independent NT dependence. Okay, now next dependence is, again this T is defined in S3 and used in S4. So due to this you have one dependence from S3 to S4 due to this T, and this is also true dependence, and it is loop independent true dependence. Now is there any other dependence in this program? Yes, we have one more dependence, and which is due to A. A of I plus 1 is defined here in 4th statement, and A of I is used in 1st statement. So what happens in first iteration? In first iteration of this loop, 4th statement defines A of 2 because I is 1 in first iteration. So it defines a of 1 plus 1, that is a of 2. A of 2 is defined in fourth statement of first iteration, and in second iteration within first statement this a of 2 is used. In second iteration I is equal to 2, so this a of I represent a of 2. So a of 2 is defined in fourth statement of first iteration and it is used in first statement of second iteration. So due to this you have one true dependence from S4 to S1. Okay, so this is true dependence. So that's why delta, and source and sink are in different iteration. And what is the distance between the iteration of source and sink? 1. So that's why here we need to write 1. So this is delta 1 and it represents loop dependent true dependence. Okay. So in this program we are in our total 4 dependence. Now here you will see that if you try to vectorize this program, then vectorization of this program is not possible because of this cycle. We have cycle S2 depends on S1, S3 depends on S4, S4 depends on S3, and then S1 depends on S4. So cycle is there, and in that cycle you have one loop dependent dependence. So that's why we cannot vectorize this program. Okay, so directly you cannot vectorize this program, but if you carefully see this program, then you'll observe that this use of t, observe use of t here. Here basically the programmer tries to save the memory, and that's why when two values are used, the programmer uses same memory location. So there are two sets you can form in this iteration. One set is of S1 and S2, another set is of S3 and S4. So here in S1 and S2, in this part of the iteration, S1 defines some value and keep that in a memory location T, and then this value is used in S2. Now in second part, in S3 some other value is calculated and that is kept in same memory location and it is used in S4. So if you see carefully, then there is no relation as such between the first part and the second part. Okay, so in first part some value is calculated and it is used, and then use of that value is over. Then in second part again some value is calculated, kept in T, and then it is used in S4, and then that value will never be used. Okay, so there are two values which are calculated. One is in S1, another value which is calculated in S3. The value which is calculated in S1 is used only in S2, and the value which is calculated in S3 is used only in S4. So as such there is no relation between the T of S1 and T of S3. Okay. So here actually we missed one of the dependence. Basically, here you have one more definition, and that is from S1 to S3, and this is output dependence. Okay, so this is output dependence because S1 S3 defines same variable. Now this problem cannot be solved by scalar expansion. So if you expand this scalar value, if you replace this scalar value t by some vector variable t dollar, then also this dependence will be preserved. This dependence remains same, okay, and this dependence will also remain same. So it means that there will be loop dependent dependence, and cycle will also be there in the program. So this problem cannot be solved by scalar expansion. However, when we recognize that these two are different part of iteration and t of this part has no relation with t of this part, then we can apply here scalar renaming. In scalar renaming, what we'll do is we'll assign a separate name to each part of the iteration. So if we replace this t by t1, that is all t in first part by t1, then this t becomes t1, this 2t also becomes t1, okay, and all t in second part by t2, so all this t in second part will become t2, then program will be modified into this. Okay, so here in first part some value is calculated and it is kept in one memory location t1, and then it is used in S2. After that another value is calculated in some separate memory location t2. It is not stored in same memory location t1, because this t1 and the value which is calculated here has no relation. So new value is calculated, it is kept in new memory location, and then this memory location is used in S4. Okay, so if we modify this, if we replace this t by t1 and t2 in different part, then we'll see that this dependence diagram will change. Okay, so what change this dependence diagram will have? This dependence will be preserved. There will be dependence from S1 and S2 because of T1. So this will be as it is. Okay. Then from S2 to S3, from S2 to S3, will there be any dependence? No, there will be no dependence from S2 to S3 because S2 uses T1 and S3 defines T2. So this dependence would be removed. Okay, so this anti-dependence which is from S2 to S3, and this anti-dependence is a special anti-dependence which is loop dependent anti-dependence. So I'll talk about this later, but here you can clearly see that this dependence can be removed. Similarly, this loop independent output dependence will also be removed because S1 and S3 now defines two different variables. So this will be removed. Then from S3 to S4, yes, this dependence will be there, and then S4 to S1, this will also be also remains same. Okay, so this will be the dependence diagram after applying scalar renaming. Now in this diagram, if you see, then there is no cycle. Okay, so cycle is broken by removing the loop independent anti-dependence. So this is a hint to every scalar renaming problem, that whenever you have some problem given, then you have to see that whether cycle is forming. If cycle is forming, you cannot vectorize it, and then you have to search whether the cause of this cycle is any loop independent anti-dependence like this. If yes, then you have to try to break that dependence by applying some method such as scalar renaming. If you succeed in breaking this loop independent anti-dependence, then you can break the cycle. So here cycle is broken. Now you can vectorize this program because cycle is broken. So after vectorization, this program would be, you need to reorder it, okay, because S4 depends on S3, so first you have to execute S3, then S4, then on S4, S1 is dependent, so after S4, S1 should execute, then after S1, S2 will be executed. So after this, the final program would be so as I said, first S3, okay, and after that you can also apply scalar expansion. So if you apply scalar expansion, this T2 becomes T2 dollar, and inside that it would go for 100 times. Okay, and right hand side is D of 1 to 100 minus B of 1 to 100. Then next is S4, and which is A of 2 to 101, and it is equal to T2 dollar 1 to 100 into T2 dollar 1 to 100. Then there will be S1, and which is T1 dollar 1 to 100, and it is equal to A of 1 to 100 plus B of 1 to 100, and S2 would be C of 1 to 100 is equal to T1 dollar 1 to 100 plus T1 dollar 1 to 100. So this is the vectorized equivalent of the original program after applying scalar renaming. So this is dependence diagram, and this is the final program after scalar renaming. Okay.